Hi, you're very welcome. And in this scenario, I've used ChatGPT to generate a set of data, which basically has 4 questions in it. How do you feel confident using formulas, pre-training and post-training? These are all make-uppy ones. And these are names and these are the departments they're allocated to. So I want to begin by, first of all, doing the formulas question. So I click in the pivot table, table design, summarize a pivot table, and I'm going to put on a new worksheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put department down into rows, and then how confident you feel using formulas, pre and post. There we go. And I'm just going to narrow down these columns a little bit as well, and just do a little, come up here to home, and then just wrap text. There we go. And that's nice and a little bit tidier. Now this assumes certain things. It assumes that it's the same number of people. To get the total score, you might do it a bit differently. You might do it by average, but I've just chosen to do it by this one. Okay. And then what I do is I come down here. So that's, first of all, that's just my pivot table done. And I'm just going to add a slicer as well. So just go to pivot table, analyze, insert slicer, and I'm going to put one for department. And there we go. And then I can come up here to slicer, maybe change the number of columns up here. Maybe make that to number 4, and then just resize that accordingly. There we go. All right. So that's just the first bit done. The next thing I want to do then is I want to come down here, and I basically want to show the change or the growth. So I'm going to come up here to this one, equals, and then click here, and then just copy it down. All right, and I'm just going to remove the grand total from up here. Let's go to design, grand totals, and I off because I won't need the grand totals. And I'm just going to put in department here. I'm then going to put in pre, and I'm going to put in post, and I'm just going to use a vlookup. So click on pre, comma, and then I'm just going to highlight all this up here. Make sure I include the whole thing. F4 to lock it, comma, second comma, and then 0. And because I want to kind of build in, if there's an issue later on, I come over here to vlookup and I go if error, and then I go comma and 0, and then I close my brackets, and then I just drag it down. And then I'm just going to do the same formula up here. So I just highlight it there, Control C to copy, down into post, Control V, put in an equals, and just change the 2 to a 3. And drag that down. I'm just going to make all these bold, and then I'm just going to put in the growth. And the growth, I always use this as a kind of thing. It's going to be new minus old divided by old. So just go equals new, which is the post, minus old, which is the growth, which is the pre. Put into brackets up here, and then just go divided by old, which is the pre. And then I just come up here, click on that to format as a percentage, and then just drag it down. Now the reason I've done this is because quite often when you want to create charts in Excel, it doesn't always allow you to do that straight from the pivot table. So I want to kind of build this combo chart as the two of them. So I highlight all this, insert, recommended charts, choose all charts, choose combo, and then I just tick the box for secondary axis, because the percentage is obviously a much lower number than the rest of them, and I want to show it as a change across there. I am then going to move my legend up to the top, so people know what the color is about. And then there we go, that looks a bit better. And I want to make this a little bit dynamic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy across how confident do you feel using formulas. Copy that into this sheet 2 here. Put it up into A1. Formulas. Okay. And then for my chart title, I just go equals, and then I click this one here. There we go. And then I'm just going to resize that a little bit. Now, I'm going to rename this one to formulas. And I'm just going to move it across to here. And I'm going to color code it to a nice green. And what I'm going to do then is, and this is why the formula is so useful, click on formulas, hold down my control key, and just drag that across. Okay, and I'm going to call this charts. And let me just drag it back again, and control and plus again, pivot tables, control and plus again, and vlookups. So I come down here to charts, click on the pivot table. My field list is visible, so what I do is I deselect these two. And what I do then is I click these to the charts. There we go. And then I amend my A to say charts. And there we go. That's that one done. And then I do the same thing for pivot tables, click into it. If your field list doesn't show up, just come up here to pivot table, analyze, and then click on field list over here. And then deselect these two, and then tick the ones pre and post for pivot tables. And then just amend this to say this one. And I do the last one then, same steps again, click here, deselect these two, and just tick these two as well. There we go. And then amend this to read vlookup. And I'm just going to resize these two a little bit to my wrap text. There we go. Okay, so that's the finished version. Hope you find it useful. Mind yourself and take care. Bye.